No matter where you are in the world, get ready to be hooked. She took 30 lashes for a Lakota boy. The next day, his family arrived with a marriage pact. A story so powerful, it will leave you speechless. What happens next isn't just surprising, it's unforgettable. So hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with someone who loves a good story. From the US to the UK, from Asia to Africa, this one's for you. Let's dive in! Margaret O'Sullivan gripped the wooden post as the leather whip cracked through the air behind her. 29 lashes had already torn through her simple cotton dress, leaving crimson streaks across her pale back. The crowd of settlers watched in stunned silence as she prepared for the final blow. "Please, Miss O'Sullivan," called out Sheriff Mason, his voice heavy with reluctance. "Just tell us where the boy went, and we can end this." Margaret's green eyes blazed with defiance despite the pain. "I told you. I don't know where he is." The lie burned her tongue, but not as much as the whip would burn her flesh. She knew exactly where young Running Wolf had gone. She'd helped him escape through the root cellar of her schoolhouse just hours before the posse arrived. The 14-year-old Lakota boy had been accused of stealing horses, though Margaret suspected he was merely trying to return ponies that had been taken from his people during a recent raid. The 30th lash fell with a sickening crack. Margaret bit through her lip to keep from crying out, tasting copper as blood filled her mouth. Her knees buckled, but she refused to fall completely. "Cut her down," Sheriff Mason ordered, unable to meet her eyes. "I hope your conscience can live with protecting a horse thief, Miss O'Sullivan." As the ropes were untied, Margaret's best friend Sarah rushed forward to support her trembling frame. "You foolish, brave woman," Sarah whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Why would you endure this for that Indian boy?" Margaret's voice was barely a whisper. "Because he's just a child, Sarah. And because it was the right thing to do." The morning sun painted the prairie in shades of gold and amber as Margaret lay face down on her narrow bed, Sarah gently applying salve to her wounded back. The schoolteacher had spent a restless night, her body racked with pain, but her spirit remained unbroken. A distant rumble drew Sarah to the window. "Margaret," she said, her voice tight with concern, "there are riders approaching." "Many riders." Margaret struggled to sit up, wincing as the movement pulled at her wounds. Through the lace curtains, she could see a group of Lakota warriors approaching her small cabin on the outskirts of town. Her heart raced not from fear, but from uncertainty about their intentions. The lead rider was an imposing figure with silver, streaked hair braided with eagle feathers. His weathered face spoke of wisdom earned through decades of hardship. Behind him rode a woman of similar age, her dark eyes scanning Margaret's property with careful assessment. "Stay calm, Sarah," Margaret murmured, slowly making her way to the door despite her friend's protests. The riders stopped 20 feet from her porch. The elder dismounted with fluid grace and approached, his hands open and visible, a gesture of peace. "You are the teacher woman who protected our son," he said in accented but clear English. "I am Standing Bear, father of Running Wolf." Margaret's eyes widened as she recognized the resemblance. Running Wolf had spoken often of his father during their quiet conversations after school. "Is he safe?" was all she could manage to ask. Standing Bear nodded solemnly. "He came to us with blood on his hands, not his own, but yours. He told us of your sacrifice." The chief's eyes moved to the torn dress visible beneath her shawl, the evidence of her ordeal. "You took punishment meant for our child. He was innocent," Margaret replied simply. "I couldn't let them hurt him for something he didn't do." A woman Margaret assumed to be Running Wolf's mother stepped forward. "My name is Morning Star," she said, her English more halting than her husband's. You bled for our son. This is not forgotten." Standing Bear reached into a leather pouch at his side and withdrew an ornate piece of beadwork, a marriage belt. Margaret realized with shock, recognizing it from her studies of Lakota culture. "Among our people," Standing Bear continued, "when someone saves the life of another's child, a debt is created, a bond of honor." He held up the belt, its intricate patterns catching the morning light. "My son tells me you have no husband. You have no family here. You are alone." Margaret's heart pounded as she began to understand what was happening. My eldest son, Joseph, returned from the East yesterday. He has learned the white man's ways at their schools, but his heart remains Lakota. He is 25 winters strong and without a wife. Standing Bear's eyes met hers directly. We offer you marriage into our family. You would be protected, honored, cared for. It is our way of repaying the debt we owe. Margaret felt Sarah's hand grip her arm tightly. The entire proposal was unprecedented, scandalous by the standards of 1876 society. A white woman marrying into a Lakota family would face rejection from her own people and uncertain acceptance from theirs. Standing Bear seemed to read her thoughts. This is not an easy path we offer, he admitted. But you showed courage yesterday that few possess. Perhaps you possess the courage for this as well. From behind the group of warriors, a young man rode forward. Joseph was indeed handsome, with kind eyes and a bearing that spoke of education and dignity. He dismounted and approached slowly. "Father has told me of your sacrifice," Joseph said, his English perfect and unaccented. "I want you to know that this offer comes not from obligation alone, but from respect. I have watched you from afar, Miss O'Sullivan. Your dedication to teaching all children, including ours, has not gone unnoticed. If you were to accept, I would consider myself fortunate." Margaret looked from Joseph to his parents, then back at the cabin where she had lived alone for 3 years, teaching the children of settlers while longing for a family of her own. She thought of the loneliness, of the way the townspeople looked at her with suspicion after yesterday's events, of the uncertain future she faced. She began, then stopped. "This is very sudden. May I have time to consider?" Standing Bear nodded. "Of course. We will camp by the creek. You may send word when you have decided." He paused, then added, "But know this, you are already family to us. Whether you accept the marriage or not, you will always have a place among the Lakota. Your courage has earned you that right." As the Lakota party set up their camp by Willow Creek, Margaret sat in her kitchen with Sarah, both women staring at the untouched breakfast between them. "You cannot seriously be considering this," Sarah said for the 10th time. "Margaret, think of what people will say. Think of your position, your reputation." Margaret touched her tender back gingerly. "My reputation didn't protect me yesterday, Sarah, and my position. I suspect I'll be looking for a new one soon enough. Half the school board thinks I'm an Indian sympathizer now. But marriage? To one of them? To a man who speaks 3 languages, who has been educated at Harvard, and whose family has shown me more respect in one morning than this town has in 3 years." Margaret replied quietly. "Joseph isn't one of them, Sarah. He's simply a man from a different culture." Through the window, she could see Joseph helping his mother tend to their horses. His movements were graceful, purposeful. When Running Wolf appeared at his side, Joseph's face lit up with genuine affection as he ruffled his younger brother's hair. "But the difficulties you would face," Sarah pressed. "Neither world would fully accept you." Margaret had been thinking the same thing, but she had also been thinking about the alternative. "What acceptance do I have here, really? I'm a spinster school teacher who lives alone and has no family. Yesterday proved how quickly that can all disappear." A knock at the door interrupted their conversation. Margaret opened it to find Running Wolf standing on her porch, his young face serious with concern. "Teacher Margaret," he said in his carefully practiced English, "I came to say I am sorry. Because of me you were hurt." Margaret knelt down, ignoring the pain in her back, and took the boy's hands in hers. "Running Wolf, you listen to me. What happened to me was not your fault. The men who hurt me made that choice themselves. My father says you might become my sister." The boy continued, his eyes brightening slightly. "Would you still teach me to read the white man's books? If I marry your brother, I would teach you whatever you wanted to learn," Margaret promised. "Would you like that?" Running Wolf nodded enthusiastically. "Joseph says learning is the best weapon we can have. He says the world is changing, and we must change with it, or be left behind." After the boy left, Margaret walked slowly to her bedroom and looked at herself in the small mirror. Her face was pale, her red hair disheveled, and her green eyes reflected the uncertainty she felt. But beneath the uncertainty, she recognized something else: hope. She had come to Dakota territory to escape the suffocating expectations of Boston society. She had wanted adventure, purpose, a chance to make a difference. Perhaps this unexpected proposal was exactly the adventure she had been seeking, just in a form she never could have imagined. That evening, as the sun set over the prairie, Margaret walked slowly down to the creek where the Lakota had made their camp. Her back still ached, but she had dressed in her finest blue dress and braided her hair carefully. Standing Bear rose as she approached, his family gathering around him. Joseph stepped forward, his expression hopeful but guarded. "I have made my decision," Margaret announced, her voice carrying clearly in the still evening air. "I accept your generous offer, but I have conditions." Standing Bear nodded for her to continue. "I wish to continue teaching both white and Lakota children. I want to build bridges between our peoples through education." She looked directly at Joseph. "And I want to learn your ways, your language, your customs. If I am to be Lakota, then I want to truly be Lakota, not just a white woman living among you." Joseph's face broke into a genuine smile. "These conditions honor us," he said. "I accept them gladly." Morning Star stepped forward and placed the marriage belt around Margaret's waist, speaking in Lakota as she did so. Joseph translated, "She says you have already proven your worthiness through your sacrifice. Now you prove your wisdom through your choices." Standing Bear raised his hands to the darkening sky. "Let it be known that Margaret O'Sullivan has chosen to walk the path between worlds. May the spirits guide her steps and bless this union." Ufun Epilogue. 6 months later, Margaret Crowfeather, she had taken Joseph's Lakota name after their wedding, stood outside the new schoolhouse that had been built at the boundary between the reservation and the town of Cedar Falls. Inside, 23 children sat at their desks, 12 white children from town, 11 Lakota children from the reservation. Her back had healed completely, leaving only faint scars that Joseph traced gently with his fingers each night as they lay together in their lodge. The marriage had been difficult at first. She had indeed faced rejection from many in the white community, and some among the Lakota had viewed her with suspicion. But slowly, through patience and genuine effort to understand and honor both cultures, she had begun to build the bridges she had envisioned. Joseph emerged from the schoolhouse, carrying a stack of books. "The children have finished their lessons in both English and Lakota today," he reported with pride. "Little Sarah Mason can count to 20 in our language now." Margaret smiled at the irony. Sheriff Mason's daughter was one of her most dedicated students, despite her father's initial reluctance to enroll her in the half-breed school, as some called it. "And running Wolf?" she asked. "Reading at a level beyond his years in both languages?" Joseph replied, "He says he wants to become a lawyer someday to help protect our people's rights." As they walked home together across the prairie, Margaret reflected on the choice that had changed her life. The 30 lashes she had endured for running Wolf seemed like a small price to pay for the family and purpose she had found. She had saved one boy, but in doing so she had saved herself. Behind them, smoke rose from the chimneys of both the town and the reservation, two communities slowly learning to coexist, guided by the courage of those willing to build bridges between worlds. The sacrifice had been for a moment. The love it had brought would last a lifetime.